Hi, welcome to Business Law and Ethics, your very first lesson of the year, lesson 1.1. This is Mrs. Reddick, and we are going to be talking today about the why behind taking this class, as well as introducing you to how this format for learning is going to work. So, first thing that you're always going to see at the beginning of the lesson, I'm going to make sure that you are introduced to an essential question. This is the question that drives the whole lesson. It's the reason why I'm teaching you the particular content that I'm teaching you, and it's the question I want you to be able to answer by the end of the lesson. So hopefully by the time you're done with watching this video, you'll be able to answer the question of how does law apply to business and why is it of importance? So that is your essential question for this lesson. I will also give you a lesson objective for every lesson, and that is for this lesson to describe the concept of law in business. They're very similar in terms of what I'm getting at here, which is the way it should be, because obviously there's a particular goal in mind for this particular lesson. So first things first, I want to make sure that you are taking notes, handwritten notes, for every single lesson that you watch. Now, there's a reason for this, and that's because you'll remember what you learn better when you write it down. It's just a proven fact that if you write something down, you remember it so much better. So please take those notes. If you don't have a note sheet right now, go ahead and pause this video, go get your note sheet, come back and start the video back up, because it's going to be really critical that you have that. So when you see this icon, that's going to indicate that it's time to get that pencil and be ready to write. Also, when you see the purple font, that's going to be an indicator that I want you to write that down. Now, it may not always be exactly what I want you to write down. It may be instructions on what I want you to think about to write down. And you'll see some examples of that here in this lesson. But it means that you need to be writing something down, okay? Also, as a caveat to this, make sure that you don't just stick to the things that I tell you to write down. If you hear something that you think is really important, or you really think is interesting, you want to remember it for the future, write that down. And you don't also have to always use words. You can draw pictures if you learn better that way, if you remember things better that way. Use your imagination on how you take these notes. I just want you to be taking notes, and you will hand those in after every lesson so that I know that you did them. And it's also so you have a record for your own when we do retrieval activities and those types of things. The other icons here, you'll see those throughout the lessons as well. These are just, maybe you're going to brainstorm, you're going to think about a question, you're going to collaborate with a classmate. That's what those are really all about, and you'll see how they work as well. So we have our first statement that you're going to want to make sure that you write down. So make sure you have those pencils ready and write down. Knowing where laws come from will help you understand your own legal rights and responsibilities. Okay, why do I have you writing this down? Why is this an important statement? What this means is, this is your why, first of all. This is why you are taking this course. And I don't know if you made the choice to take the course, or if it was the only class that was available, so you took the course because of that. Either way, you need to understand why it's important to take this course. Otherwise, what's the point? So this is your why. If you don't understand laws and where they come from and how you can shape them, then you don't understand your legal rights, you don't understand your responsibilities. And it's important that you understand those things. So, it's important that you be a citizen that goes out and follows the law, but it's also really important that you understand when somebody is taking your rights away from you. There's a lot of talk about rights in the news, especially right now. And it's important that you understand where those lines are drawn, and if indeed people have certain rights or they don't have certain rights, so that you can be intelligent about that. So that's your why for this class. These are the things you're going to learn, because you're going to learn about all kinds of law, not just business law, and we'll talk more about that in the future. So after watching this video, you should be able to describe what business law is and why it's important. You see a theme here. This is the overarching idea behind this lesson, is that you're going to understand what this class is all about and why you're taking it. Okay? Okay, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think about this question. What are the different types of legal scenarios you can think of? So you think about some of the movies that you watch and TV shows. Maybe you've watched some documentaries, or maybe you know somebody who's personally been in legal trouble, even if it is a contractual dispute. There's all kinds of things that happen in the legal system. So I want you to think about those. Take about 30 seconds and just think about it. You don't have to write anything down. You can go ahead and begin thinking about those things now. All right. So hopefully you came up with some good scenarios that you could think of. I'm going to give you 3 examples. And then these 3 examples are things that we will probably be looking at some point during the year. They certainly touch the situations and the kind of legal aspects that we will discuss. They don't encompass everything that we'll talk about, but it's just some examples of some of the more interesting, I guess, things that we'll learn about. So first of all, who is this guy? If you've ever seen this guy, maybe in the news, because he recently died, this is a really old picture back from 1968, but his name is Charles Manson, major cult leader. He convinced several people to murder other people, and he never killed a person. He never actually committed murder. So it's really an interesting story, and I will most likely have you guys take a look at this because it is such an interesting way of looking at how law applies to a person like this who doesn't necessarily pull the trigger, but definitely has a major influence in that. This young lady is Michelle Carter. You may have seen her documentary on Netflix over the summer. She is the woman, the young woman who was convicted of convincing her boyfriend to kill himself over social media. So this is a really great example of how laws are not in a vacuum. They change and they morph because, our forefathers, when they created the Constitution, certainly didn't have this in mind. They couldn't have foreseen that we would have something like Twitter or Facebook or Instagram to communicate with each other and influence each other. And then finally, this is a situation this gentleman is Martin Shkreli, and he's known for having jacked up the price of insulin so high that people, it's impossible for people to purchase it unless they have a lot of money or they have really, really good insurance. And so he is basically holding a life-saving drug hostage. And so kind of the legal situations that came into play with that. So I'm going to show you a quick video. This is a trailer of something called Dirty Money, and I think we'll probably watch some episodes of this show. I want you to watch this clip, and this will give you another idea, a little more idea of how crime plays into business specifically. Now, like I said, in this class, we're going to be learning about all kinds of law, not just business related law. But you can see how there's really there's not a big division between all of this, because in law, in business, the same kinds of laws that are broken by the individual person out in the world are also happening at a much larger scale in the business world. And so it's really important to understand how law affects people from both sides. Okay, so let's go ahead and watch this video.
The con man is a fixture of American life, and con man is short for confidence man. He preys upon people's confidence in them to deliver on their dreams, to deliver on their needs.
Volkswagen clean diesel.
Ripping off Middle America is another thing.
The system takes our best and brightest people, and they get paid outlandish sums to look the other way.
It's hard to not be moved by the hardship that these companies impose.
The poster boy for hiking drug prices.
This was Wall Street at its worst, funding a drug company at its worst.
It's not funny, Mr. Cerulli. People are dying, and they're getting sicker and sicker.
These banks, they move millions for the cartels.
The kidnappings, the extortion, the murders, all of that has to do with the money.
We may be looking at the largest systematic corporate fraud in history.
It is clear that there had been a frantic effort to cover this up. Individuals who purchase cars are victims. All of us who suffer from this extra pollution are victims.
To see such greed go unchecked was just maddening.
They make money by taking money from poor people.
I mean, this was little kids saying, "Mom, is everything going to be okay?"
What I would discover was much darker and more vast than anything I had imagined.
The amounts of money involved were massive.
Billions of dollars.
We didn't find anything they were doing that was illegal, and that's the thing that's startling about this.
When these companies become so important, they're a member of a class that is not jailable.
Do you think you're a moral person?
I'm a business person.
Okay, so I think it's really interesting that that final statement of do you feel like you're a criminal or a crook or whatever? And he said, I'm a businessman. So this is another example of where it's important to understand your rights and the legal system, so that you know when those who are in power are taking advantage of someone who's not. So hopefully that gave you just a view of some of the things that we'll be talking about. You know, not everything's going to be as exciting as some of those bigger stories that you see in the news, or even the criminal things like murder and stealing and all of that. But I guarantee you that you'll get something out of all of those. So that leads me to my next question. What do you want to get out of this class? So here's where I want you to start to think about goals. What kind of goals do you want to have? Not just, and I don't mean just, I want an A+ or whatever. I'm talking about what questions do you have about this class? Why did you want to take this class? If you did want to take this class, what are some of those questions that you have that you want to make sure that you learn this year? So what do you want to get out of this class? Think about all of the lists, do a little brainstorm. Do that for maybe a minute. And then I want you to write down 3 of those things off of your list that you want to accomplish or learn this year in class, and put that down on your notes. And this is going to be something that we can go back to time and time again to make sure that I'm covering that content, as well as that you are getting out of it, getting out of the class what you wanted from the very beginning. Okay? So go ahead and pause the video. Take some time to write those things down, and then move on to the next action. So finally, what I want you to do is to use your notes. So hopefully you took some really good notes, and answer that question that was posed at the very beginning of the video. How does law apply to business, and why is it important? So that's that essential question. I want you to, and hopefully you have the answer to this. How does law apply to business, and why is it important? Write your answer in your notes, and then when you're done, you'll be handing those notes in through the process that we talked about with Rocketbook. Make sure that you get that to me as soon as you're done with the lesson, and then move on to the practice activity, which you can find in the folder that is marked Lesson 1.1, Unit 1, Lesson 1.1 practice activity. Okay? Have a great day.